In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Tibaldi N60 Fountain Pen. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. So this is the Tibaldi N60 Fountain Pen in Zazu Green. And for those of you that don't know, Tibaldi was an Italian fountain pen company that was founded, I believe, in 1916, or at least that's when they released their first pen. So it actually predates Aurora, and so they were one of the very first, if not the first, fountain pen company out of Italy. And as someone that used to collect vintage Italian fountain pens, Tibaldi was one of my favorite brands. I did not have very many of them because they were pretty hard to find. They were relatively rare compared to Aurora and Omas and some other brands like Columbus. I really did enjoy them. The quality was very high. I believe they went out of business in the 1960s around the time of the ballpoint. As of today, Aurora is the only original fountain pen company from Italy that's still going. So it's really, honestly amazing that Aurora has been able to maintain their business. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, in the 90s, Tibaldi came back and they made some really nice high-end celluloid fountain pens. And some companies bought their stock, so you may have heard of Tibaldi Impero celluloid. I had a pen that was made out of that material from Scriptorium. I'll put that picture up if I can find that picture. Really beautiful pens, but I think that's almost, the greatest fame, at least modern fame, of the Tibaldi name. They also made some very expensive pens for Bentley, the car company, but they went out of business, and now more recently somebody picked up the name Tibaldi and is using it. I'm not super thrilled with what we got. It's not to say that the pens are bad, it's just, why are they using the Tibaldi name? They maybe want to say that the company's from 1916, which obviously the current version certainly isn't, but the brand has almost no brand recognition. The name doesn't really mean anything, so why are they using the Tibaldi name? I find this kind of annoying when the pens are like this. Like, if, hey, we wanted to make, beautiful celluloid pens in a high quality way, I say, okay, fine, use the name. But for stuff like this, I'm not that happy about it, to be honest. Now, again, that's not to say that this is a bad pen. This pen is made of resin, as I believe all of the new Tibaldi pens are. This Zazu green color is pretty cool looking. It has like purple and sort of aqua or turquoise coloring in it. It's pretty neat looking. The pen actually does look very vintage. The finial here, and it's kind of mirrored on the bottom there. It looks pretty vintage, I would say, and it looks, relatively nice. We have these sort of stepped cap rings that are again mirrored on the bottom there. We have this clip, which is somewhat of a tie shape where it's wide at the top, kind of has a pinch here, and it bows out to a point. We have Tibaldi engraved on the cap and made in Italy on the back, because these are made in Italy, and I do believe they are made out of solid rods of resin, so that part is good, I would say. We have 3 gold rings here. Taking the cap off, we have, I think, what is one of the worst looking nibs that I've seen on a modern pen, and it's definitely the worst looking nib I've seen on a pen that retails for $295. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's gold plated. The Tibaldi name and logo are like laser engraved. Looks really bad to me. The B, this is a broad nib, is the only thing that has sort of a crisp impression on it. The Tibaldi logo, which is like a bird here, this just doesn't look anything like one of the vintage Tibaldi nibs. Now on the bright side, we do have a ebonite feed, which is nice. We also have, I think, continuing kind of the vintage look of this pen, this looks like a vintage grip section to me. It flares out at the middle. It is relatively short, but it's very wide. Oh, the other thing is, this is a pretty big pen. So while it looks like a vintage pen to me, it's a much more large, modern size. It takes standard cartridges and converters. It does come with a converter, which is, I believe, branded Tibaldi. I think maybe in black or something like that. At least you're getting that for $300. I guess I'm just, as somebody that really liked the original brand and even thought the first reincarnation of the brand that made, these really high-end celluloid pens, I thought those were pretty nice. This just, they're just using the name, I don't know. I'm guessing just to say that the company's from 1916. I don't really get it. It doesn't really feel respectful to the original brand, but whatever. It's probably was cheap to buy the name. So, and if it's doing something for them, that's okay. So let's do some measurements here. Oh, and for anyone that's interested in the original Tibaldi brand, there's a really good book by Letizia Jacopini, who did a really also great series of books called The Story of the Italian Fountain Pen. And she was a collaborator, I believe, on the Omas Dolcini book. So she's a really great resource when it comes to Italian fountain pens. And she made this really fun book. It's not as much of a collector's guide type book like her other works were, but just really nice. Anyway, let's do the measurements here. So in terms of the length, about 150 millimeters. So as I said, it's quite a large pen. And here we're looking at about 135, 134 millimeters. And posted, this does actually post pretty nicely. We're looking at about 175 millimeters, so quite big. I've been able to write with it posted because the pen itself really isn't too heavy, and I don't feel like the balance is that bad. In terms of like writing performance, I've actually had no problems with the nib. It's a nice, smooth writer, been reliable in the couple weeks that I've been using it. So 11.3 at the narrowest and about 12.1 at the widest. So it's quite a fat grip section. There's not a lot of room to move around on it. It doesn't feel cramped like some other grip sections, like, I don't know why, but the Visconti Homo sapiens grip section, even though it's kind of a similar size to this, just feels cramped to me. I don't have that issue here. In terms of the weight, we are looking at 25.2 and uncapped 15.5. So not too heavy of a pen. This pen doesn't feel cheap. I do believe it's turned from a solid rod of acrylic or resin, and it does have a substantial feel to it, but it's not so heavy that it's uncomfortable to write with. Yeah, I'd enjoy this pen a lot more if it had a better looking nib and it wasn't branded Tibaldi. Okay, let's do the writing sample. So for the writing sample, I'm going to be doing it on a Papermind Mitsubishi bank paper notebook. These are really excellent with fountain pens, and for Blake's Broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. Okay, let's do the writing sample. This is an N60. And this is a broad nib, and this is Hiroshi Zuku Shinrai. Alright, I don't think the spelling on that is right at all, but... Okay, fast writing. Okay. And no issues there. The performance of this nib has been, I think, pretty much flawless. I haven't had any issues with skipping. It's a pretty smooth nib. In terms of reverse writing, I don't know if that was, yeah. It seems like I could do it. This was me lifting up. There is a little bit of a difference there. I would say that this works pretty well for reverse writing. And being it's broad, it has a pretty thick or fat tip. It's pretty smooth actually on the reverse, so pretty good there. Flexibility, You can get a little bit of line variation out of there, but it's pretty much a nail. You might end up damaging the nib if you push on it. But overall, no real complaints about the way that this pen writes. So what are my pros and cons for the Tibaldi N60 Fountain Pen? Well, I think the biggest pro is the looks. It does definitely look like a vintage pen in design. It's definitely bigger kind of than I would expect it to be for a vintage style pen, but I like that it's very comfortable, it's very lightweight. I do like that we get an ebonite feed, and in my testing, it's been a very nice performer with the broad nib. Now, in terms of cons, the price is really high. I think it's like $295 retail. I think streets around $230, something like that. That's a lot of money for a plastic pen with a steel nib and a cartridge converter filling system. I mean, it is made in Italy, but that's just too much for this. I don't like the design of the nib. This is probably one of the ugliest nib designs I've seen. It just looks really, really cheap, and I just don't think it's appropriate for a pen that costs this much money to have a nib that looks like this. I'm not a huge fan that they're using that Tibaldi name and then this is the product. That's not to say that this is a bad product. It's just, if you're somebody that knows what a Tibaldi is, you're probably not going to be happy with this. And I think maybe they just picked up the name because it was available. It's historically an important Italian fountain pen company, but the people that's going to have any brand recognition with are probably not going to be too happy with this. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.